During shopping, my 8-year-old clutched my hand and said, "Mom, quickly to the bathroom." In the stall, she whispered, "Don't move. Look." I bent down and froze in horror. I didn't cry. I took action. 3 hours later, my mother-in-law went pale because I used to laugh at kids' fears. Not out loud, not cruelly, just the quiet adult kind of amusement. Monsters under the bed, shadows in the hallway. Someone's watching me. Sure, honey. Then one Sunday, I was crouched on a sticky bathroom floor in a mall outside Columbus, Ohio, holding my 8-year-old's hand while polished black shoes stopped in front of our stall, and a man's voice, low and calm, said into his phone, "Yeah, mother and daughter. The girl's about 8. They've got shopping bags. Blue dress." Blue dress. My daughter had picked it out 10 minutes earlier. It was in our bag. That's when the cute childhood fears category died. Lily's grip on my fingers was so tight it hurt. She didn't look at me. She didn't need to. She put a finger to her lips like we were in a movie. Except in movies, the bathroom floor isn't tacky, and your heart doesn't try to climb out through your throat. "Don't move," she whispered. So I didn't. I watched the shoes through the gap under the stall door. Slow steps. Stop. Slow steps. Stop. Like he was checking each stall one by one. Like he had time. The shoes paused right in front of ours. Lily's breath disappeared. Mine too. Then the shoes moved on again, and the voice continued like he was giving a weather report. "They should have come this way if they didn't leave already." "Yeah, I'll keep looking." My brain tried to catch up. Man in a women's restroom looking for us, describing our shopping bags. This wasn't a misunderstanding. This was a hunt. I pulled my phone out with shaking hands and hit record because if there's one thing working in healthcare teaches you, it's this. If it isn't documented, it didn't happen. The shoes circled once more, then stopped. A stall door creaked. Another creaked. Lily's eyes went huge. That's when I did the only thing I could do without giving us away. I called 911. Not a dramatic call. No screaming. Just woman's restroom. Man inside following us. 8-year-old with me. Please. The response came fast. Stay where you are. Officers are on the way. Notify mall security if you can safely. Mall security. Bless the American tradition of outsourcing panic to a guy in a polo shirt. But at least it was something. When the shoes drifted toward the sinks, I grabbed Lily and we slipped out like smoke. Fast, quiet, bags clutched tight. We ran straight to the security office like our lives had a loyalty card. The guard looked skeptical. Of course he did. 2 women bursting in with shopping bags and wild eyes isn't credible. It's Black Friday energy. "What's going on?" he asked, already bracing for a complaint about a coupon. Lily, trembling, described the man perfectly. The shoes, the suit, the camera strap. And then I played the audio. His face changed in real time. "That's not normal," he said. "No kidding." He pulled up the cameras. We watched the footage like it was a horror film with a budget. And there he was, mid-40s, dark suit, neat hair, holding a small camera like it was an accessory, not a weapon. He walked with the confidence of someone who believed rules were for other people. Security tracked him through the building. 30 minutes later, they found him. He didn't run. He didn't even look surprised. When the guard questioned him, the man calmly flashed a plastic card. "I'm Brian Douglas Hartman," he said, "licensed private investigator. I'm conducting an investigation." "What investigation?" the guard asked. "I can't disclose that," Hartman replied smoothly. "Confidentiality." And then he said something that should have been funny, except it wasn't. "But I'm not doing anything illegal." A private investigator in a women's restroom searching for a mother and child. Sure. Security called the police anyway because even in America, a badge you bought online doesn't magically excuse you from common sense. A cruiser arrived about 20 minutes later. An officer took one look at Lily and softened. Then he looked at Hartman and didn't soften at all. Hartman was escorted out, and that's when my phone rang. It was Kevin, my brother-in-law. "Kate," he said, breathless. "Are you okay? I heard something happened." I blinked. "Kevin, how do you know?" "I saw it online," he said quickly. "People were posting about a suspicious guy at the mall. I thought it might be you." It had been less than an hour. Maybe in the age of neighborhood apps and local Facebook groups, that wasn't impossible, but it still landed wrong because Kevin always seemed to know things before I told him. "I'm coming," he said. "Where are you?" "We're with police," I answered. "They want statements at the station." "But I can drive myself." "I'm coming anyway." He hung up before I could argue. Of course he did. 2 years earlier, my husband David died in a car crash. One minute you're arguing about whether to buy name-brand cereal. The next you're signing forms you can't read through tears. After that, everything in my life became a schedule. Shifts, bills, school pickup, survival with occasional spaghetti. I'm a nurse. 12-hour shifts. The kind where you come home and your bones feel borrowed. Lily and I made a routine out of the wreckage. Homework at the kitchen table. Cartoons after dinner. Spaghetti night. Whenever we needed comfort, we could chew. David loved tomato sauce. He used to grow basil in a little planter box on our balcony, like it was a sacred ritual. One evening at the grocery store, Lily said casually, she pushing the cart like she owned the place, "I have a math test tomorrow." "Are you ready?" I asked, because that's what moms do when they're trying not to think about everything else. "I'm fine," she said, then quieter. "But Grandma Margaret keeps asking if school is hard, like she wants me to say yes." I paused in the rice aisle. My mother-in-law, Margaret Louise Miller, Grandma Margaret to Lily, had been interested lately. Not the normal grandma interested, the measuring kind. "Does your mom help you? Is she home much? Does she leave you alone?" She always said it like concern, but it tasted like something else. When we got home, Lily helped me with dinner, peeling tomatoes while I tried not to drown in memories. "Dad would like this," she said softly. I swallowed. "Yeah, he would." "Let's buy basil next time," she added. "Ma, the kind Dad grew." I nodded because saying no to that would have felt like erasing him. We were finally sitting down to eat when the doorbell rang. It was around 8, late enough that you don't expect company unless it's trouble. I opened the door and found Kevin standing there with a small bouquet of flowers, like this was normal. "Hey," he said gently. "I just wanted to check on you two." Kevin was David's younger brother, recently divorced, still carrying that lonely look like a coat he couldn't take off. Lily squealed because she loved people before she learned they could be complicated. Kevin lifted her into his arms and handed her a little box. Inside was a plush character from her favorite cartoon. She lit up. I didn't because we hadn't told Kevin her favorite character. Not really. Not enough for him to know exactly which one to buy. That night after Lily fell asleep, I sat alone with my coffee and tried to be fair. He's lonely. He misses his brother. He misses having a family. Fine. But then his visits became scheduled. Every day around 6 the doorbell rang. Like Kevin had set an alarm. He always brought something. Candy, school supplies, another toy. At first, I was grateful. Then I was tired. By the second week, Lily started sighing when the bell rang. "He's here again," she'd whisper, and her smile would dim just a little. Kevin would sit on the couch and talk about how empty his apartment felt, how we were a bright spot, how David would have wanted him to watch over us. That line, "David would have wanted," became his master key. He used it on every locked door. I tried once, carefully. "Kevin, well, maybe not every day," I said, aiming for kind instead of harsh. "We're exhausted sometimes." He blinked like the idea offended him. Then he apologized and showed up the next day anyway. Of course he did. And before I continue, I need to say something. If you're listening right now, you're about to hear how I exposed a conspiracy that almost destroyed my family. But here's the thing. My mother said I wouldn't even reach 1,000 subscribers on YouTube with stories like this. She said nobody cares about the truth when it's messy and real. But I believe these stories deserve to be heard. They matter. So if you think this kind of truth deserves a voice, hit that subscribe button. Help me prove her wrong. Help me show that real stories, the ones that make you uncomfortable and angry and hopeful, those are the ones worth telling. Now back to what happened next. One night, Kevin said casually like he was reading off a calendar, "Can I come watch Lily rehearse her class presentation next Thursday? 2:00, right?" My skin went cold. "How do you know the day and time?" I asked. "Lily told me," he said, smiling. I looked at Lily. She looked confused. "I didn't," she said slowly. Kevin laughed awkwardly. "Oh, maybe I heard it another way." "Another way?" "Sure. He showed up at school anyway, sat in the auditorium among the parents like he belonged there, like he was filling David's seat." After Lily presented, Kevin handed her a tiny bouquet. She said, "Thank you," politely. In the car on the way home, Lily stared out the window and whispered, "Mom, I get tired when Uncle Kevin comes." "Why, honey?" She hesitated. "It feels like he's watching me, all like he knows everything I love, but I don't remember telling him." Kids don't have a filter. They also don't have a reason to lie about that. So I started watching Kevin. The way his eyes moved around our living room, the way he picked up framed photos and held them a second too long, the way he looked at Lily's schoolwork like it was evidence. One afternoon, he mentioned something that hadn't even been discussed in our house yet. "Oh, Lily must be excited for the zoo field trip next month," he said with a grin. "Packing lunches will be a challenge, huh?" I froze. The zoo flyer had been handed out the day before. It was on Lily's desk under a stack of papers. I hadn't even read it yet. "Where did you hear that?" I asked carefully. "From Lily," he said quickly. Lily's head snapped up. "I didn't tell him." Silence filled the room. Kevin laughed. Forced. "I must have mixed it up." No, he didn't. That night, I noticed something else. The school papers in Lily's desk were arranged. Not messy, not stuffed, organized. "Did you clean your drawers?" I asked her. She shook her head. "No." The next day, I watched from the second-floor window as Kevin left. He paused outside, turned, and stared up into our living room window like he was checking something. My stomach dropped. Lily came up behind me and whispered, "Mom, Uncle Kevin is weird, right?" "What makes you think that?" "He always asks where we're going, when you work, if we'll be home Saturday. Why does he need to know?" Then came the moment that broke my last attempt at maybe I'm overreacting. Kevin asked for a spare key. "Just in case," he said. "If something happens to you, I need access." "I'm family." "No," I said immediately. He frowned. "Your neighbor isn't family." "Valerie has helped us for years," I snapped, "and she doesn't demand keys." Kevin's voice sharpened. "David would want me to take care of this." Something inside me snapped right back. "Don't use my husband as leverage," I said. That's when Lily, barely audible, said, "Uncle, you're kind of scary." For a split second, Kevin's face changed. Hard, almost hungry. Then it smoothed out again into a smile. "Scary uncle just wants to protect you," he said sweetly. Lily moved behind me. Her instinct knew something my grief kept trying to deny. The mall trip was supposed to be a break. New clothes, because Lily was growing like she had a secret contract with time. Milkshakes. A normal Sunday. Well, she found the blue dress and spun in the fitting room like the world was safe again. We walked through the stores, bags getting heavier. We sat at the food court with milkshakes and fries. And Lily sighed happily. This is fun, she said. When Uncle Kevin isn't around, we can relax. That one hurt because she was 8, and she shouldn't have needed relaxing as a concept tied to an adult relative. Then she said something that turned my stomach. Uncle Kevin came by when you weren't home, she said quietly. What? Last Wednesday. He was outside our building when I got home from school. He asked if you were back yet. I told him I was going to Miss Valerie's after. He said, okay, then he left. Wednesday was my late shift. I didn't get home until after 9. And Kevin shouldn't have known Lily would be alone at pickup or that she'd be going to Valerie's. I felt cold all over. We threw away our empty cups and headed for the exit. That's when Lily stopped walking. Mom, she whispered. Her face went white. That man. I followed her gaze. A man at the food court. Dark suit, black shoes. Lily, I started. Bathroom, she said urgently. Now. The panic in her voice wasn't normal. It wasn't dramatic. It was survival. So we moved fast. She pulled me into the women's restroom and stopped again at the door like she couldn't breathe. Come with me, she begged. It's okay, I tried. No, together. So we went into one stall. Together. 2 bodies. 1 cramped space. My shopping bags pressed against my knees, her hands shaking in mine. Then the shoes came and the voice came, and the blue dress became proof we were being tracked. You already know what happened next because that's where this story started. But here's what happened after. We got out, we ran, we showed security, we found Hartman, and then we went to the police station. At the station, the fluorescent lights made everything look worse, even my own hands. Lily sat beside me, quiet, holding my sleeve like it was the only stable thing in the room. Hartman sat across the hallway, still calm, still polished, like this was an appointment, not a crime. Kevin showed up before we were even done giving our statement. His face was pale. He rushed to Lily first, crouching to her level. Are you okay? He asked. Lily nodded, but she didn't move toward him. That was new. A detective interviewed Hartman. At first, Hartman didn't want to talk. Then, the detective explained calmly what entering a women's restroom to pursue a child looks like in court. Hartman's confidence cracked. Finally, he said it. I was hired, he admitted. Hired by who? The detective asked. A woman named Margaret Louise Miller. My ears rang. My mother-in-law. My hands went numb. Why would she hire you? The detective continued. Hartman swallowed. To document Catherine Miller's daily life, he said. To assess parenting, whether the child is being neglected because the mother works too much. I stood up so fast my chair scraped the floor. What does that even mean? I snapped. Hartman looked down. She believed the mother was unfit. She wanted evidence for a custody petition. Custody? For my daughter? From me? Because I work? Because I'm tired? Because my husband died and I didn't fall apart politely enough? Kevin stared like he'd been punched. No, he said. No, my mom wouldn't. The detective's eyes went sharp. Mr. Miller, he said, you've been at Miss Miller's home often. You've asked about schedules, school events, plans. Kevin opened his mouth, closed it, opened it again. I was worried, he said finally, about my sister-in-law and my niece. Worried about what? The detective asked. Kevin froze, and then Lily spoke, soft but clear. Uncle Kevin comes inside our house when Mom's at work. The room went silent. I turned to her slowly. What? He has a key, Lily whispered. I saw him use it. Last week. I was supposed to be at Valerie's, but I forgot my homework, so I came back. He was in the living room, looking at papers on your desk. My vision narrowed. Kevin's face drained of color. Lily, that's not, he stammered. I was just checking on things, making sure everything was okay. How did you get a key? I asked, voice shaking. He didn't answer. He didn't need to. I remembered the spare key I kept in a kitchen drawer, hidden under the dish towels. I remembered Kevin helping himself to water from our fridge, opening drawers like he lived there. My stomach turned. The detective leaned forward. "Mr. Miller, did you provide your mother with information about Miss Miller's schedule, her work hours, her daughter's activities?" Kevin's silence was an answer. "Did you enter the residence without permission?" The detective pressed. "I'm family," Kevin said weakly. "I was trying to help." "Help who?" I demanded. "Me? Or your mother build a case against me?" Kevin looked at the floor. That's when I knew. He wasn't the lonely brother-in-law. He was a spy. The detective asked Kevin to step into another room. Lily and I sat alone for a moment. She was shaking. I pulled her close. "You're so brave," I whispered. "You told me the truth even when it was scary." "I was scared of Uncle Kevin," she admitted. "He's nice, but he feels wrong. Trust a kid to say what adults dance around." Kevin felt wrong because he was wrong. An officer brought us water and crackers. Lily nibbled one silently. I couldn't eat. My mind was racing through every visit, every gift, every time Kevin showed up unannounced. Every detail he knew that he shouldn't. It was all surveillance. The detective returned an hour later. He sat across from us, expression grim. "Ms. Miller, I need to inform you that we've contacted Margaret Miller. She's been advised to come to the station." My chest tightened. "Is she being charged?" "That depends on several factors," he said carefully. "What we know is that she hired Mr. Hartman to follow you and your daughter. She also appears to have coordinated with her son, Kevin Miller, to gather information about your home life, your work schedule, and your parenting." "For what?" I asked, though I already knew. "She filed a petition for emergency custody of Lily 3 days ago," he said quietly. My world tilted. 3 days, while I was working double shifts to pay our rent, while Lily was doing homework at our kitchen table, while we were just trying to survive. Margaret was in a courtroom claiming I was unfit. "On what grounds?" I demanded. The detective pulled out a folder. "According to the petition, she claims you leave Lily unsupervised for extended periods, that you're emotionally unstable following your husband's death, and that the child is falling behind in school." Every word was a knife. "That's a lie," I said, voice breaking. "Lily is never unsupervised. She stays with our neighbor Valerie when I work. She's thriving in school. Her teacher sent home a progress report last week, all excellent marks." "We know," the detective said gently. "We've already begun investigating the claims." But Ms. Miller had what appeared to be evidence. Photos of Lily walking home alone. My blood ran cold. She walks 2 blocks from the bus stop to Valerie's apartment. I watch from the window when I'm home. Valerie meets her at the door. "Photos of your home in disarray." "We live there," I snapped. "Sometimes there are dishes in the sink. Sometimes laundry is folded on the couch. That's called life." The detective nodded. "Photos of Lily looking upset." I closed my eyes. Lily had cried twice in the past month. Once when she missed her dad during a school presentation about families. Once when she scraped her knee at the playground. Normal child emotions that Margaret had weaponized. "This is insane," I whispered. "This is calculated," the detective corrected. "Your mother-in-law has been building a case for months. The private investigator, the coordination with Kevin, the documentation. She believed she had enough to prove you unfit." "But I'm not," I said desperately. "I know," he replied, "and that's going to become very clear. Because what she did, hiring someone to stalk you and your child, entering your home through deception, filing false claims, that's going to backfire spectacularly." An hour later, Margaret arrived. I heard her voice before I saw her. Sharp, indignant, demanding to know why she'd been summoned like a criminal. The detective met her in the hallway. I couldn't hear the whole conversation, but I caught fragments. Investigator, restroom, child endangerment, false claims. When Margaret walked past our waiting area, she saw me. Our eyes met. For the first time in 2 years, I didn't see the concerned grandmother. I saw the woman who wanted to take my daughter. Her expression was cold, righteous, like she genuinely believed she was saving Lily from me. That's what made it worse. She wasn't a monster. She was a mother-in-law who'd convinced herself I wasn't good enough for her son's child. The detective called me into his office. Margaret was already seated, and her lawyer beside her. A lawyer. She'd come prepared. "Ms. Miller," the detective began, "we've informed Mrs. Miller of the situation involving Mr. Hartman and the incident at the mall." Margaret's lawyer jumped in immediately. My client was conducting a legitimate investigation into the welfare of her grandchild. By hiring a man to follow them into a public restroom, I shot back. The lawyer stiffened. Mr. Hartman was instructed to observe and document. Nothing more. He overstepped. "He terrified my daughter," I said. "He followed us. He described what we were wearing, what we bought. He hunted us." Margaret finally spoke, voice tight. "I did what I had to do. You're not capable of raising Lily alone. You work constantly. She's lonely. She's struggling." "She's not struggling," I said. "She's grieving her father, just like me. But she's loved, she's safe, and she's mine." "You're overwhelmed," Margaret insisted. "You can barely keep the house clean. You rely on a neighbor to raise her." "I rely on a neighbor to help," I corrected. "That's called community. That's called support. You know what's not support? Spying on me, lying to courts, traumatizing a child." The detective cleared his throat. "Mrs. Miller, I need to inform you that we're pursuing charges against Mr. Hartman for criminal trespass and potentially stalking. Additionally, your son Kevin has admitted to entering Ms. Miller's residence without permission and providing you with private information." Margaret paled. Kevin was helping family. "Kevin was trespassing," the detective said flatly. "And you coordinated with him to build a false narrative. That's conspiracy." The word hung in the air. Margaret's lawyer whispered something to her. She shook her head stubbornly. "I was protecting my grandchild." "From what?" I asked, leaning forward. "From a mother who loves her? From a home where she's fed and safe and happy? Or from the reality that your son is dead and you can't control that?" Margaret flinched. "Good. Let it hurt. David loved me," I continued, voice steady now. "He chose me. He trusted me with his daughter. And you're spitting on that because you can't stand that I'm doing it without you." "You're doing it wrong," Margaret hissed. "No," I said. "I'm doing it differently than you would, and that's what you can't forgive." The detective ended the meeting shortly after. Margaret left with her lawyer, stone-faced. I stayed behind to finalize paperwork. The detective assured me that the custody petition would be dismissed once the court reviewed the circumstances. He also said I could file for a restraining order against both Margaret and Kevin. I didn't hesitate. I filed. The next week was a blur of legal calls, police reports, and school meetings. I had to explain to Lily's teacher why there might be court proceedings. I had to tell Valerie everything, and she cried angry tears on my behalf. I had to take 2 days off work, which meant 2 days without pay, which meant we ate spaghetti 4 nights in a row. But we were together, and we were safe. The court hearing was scheduled fast. Emergency petitions get priority, but so do allegations of fraud. Margaret showed up in a navy suit, perfectly pressed, hairstyled like she was attending a charity luncheon. I showed up in my scrubs because I'd come straight from a shift, and I refused to pretend this was anything other than what it was, a working mother defending her right to parent. Her lawyer presented first. They had photos, printed and mounted. Lily walking alone, our living room with toys scattered. Me looking exhausted in the grocery store parking lot, They had Kevin's written testimony about my erratic schedule and emotional instability. They had a timeline of my work hours that Kevin had tracked for months. It was thorough. It was damning. It was also completely out of context. When my turn came, I didn't have a lawyer. I had the truth. I stood up and I spoke. Your Honor, I work 12-hour shifts as a nurse because healthcare doesn't stop. I work nights and weekends because that's what the job requires, and because it pays enough to keep a roof over our heads. My daughter walks 2 blocks from the bus stop to our neighbor's apartment because she's 8 years old and capable, and because Valerie watches from her window and meets her at the door. I have a signed letter from Valerie confirming this arrangement and her willingness to continue. Our home has toys on the floor because a child lives there. Our home has laundry on the couch because I fold it while Lily does homework so we can spend time together. Our home is not a museum. It's a life. I pulled out my own folder. Progress reports from Lily's teacher. Attendance records, showing she'd missed only 2 days all year, both for a stomach bug. A letter from our pediatrician confirming she's healthy. I'm up to date on vaccinations and shows no signs of neglect. Photos of us at the park, at the library, at home making spaghetti together. Proof that we were living, not just surviving. Then I showed the court the police report. The one detailing Hartman's hire, Kevin's trespassing, and Margaret's coordination. This woman didn't petition for custody because she loves my daughter, I said. She did it because she couldn't control me. Because I'm raising Lily my way, not hers. Because her son died and she thinks that gives her ownership over his child. The judge read through everything in silence. Then she looked at Margaret. Mrs. Miller, did you hire a private investigator to follow your daughter-in-law and grandchild? Yes, Margaret said stiffly. But only to document the truth. And did your son Kevin enter their residence without permission? Margaret hesitated. He was checking on them. That's a yes, the judge said. Mrs. Miller, this court does not look favorably on deception, trespassing, or the use of intimidation tactics in custody cases. The evidence you've presented is circumstantial at best and manipulated at worst. The evidence Ms. Miller has presented shows a dedicated, loving parent doing her best under difficult circumstances. The judge turned to me. Ms. Miller, I'm dismissing this petition. Furthermore, I'm granting your request for a restraining order against Margaret Miller and Kevin Miller. They are not to contact you or Lily, directly or through third parties, for a period of 1 year. At that time, you may revisit supervised visitation if you choose. Margaret stood abruptly. You can't keep me from my grandchild. I can and I am, the judge said firmly. You terrorize that child in pursuit of control. You've lost the privilege of access. If you truly care about Lily, you'll use this year to reflect on your actions. We left the courtroom, and I finally exhaled. Lily squeezed my hand. Is Grandma Margaret going to leave us alone now? She asked. Yes, baby, I said. For a long time. Good, she said simply. She was mean to you. Out of the mouths of babes. We went home. We made spaghetti. We watched cartoons. We planted basil in a little pot on the balcony, just like David used to. Life didn't become perfect. I still worked long hours. Lily still missed her dad. But we had peace. Kevin tried to call once 2 weeks later. I let it go to voicemail. He cried into the recording, said he was sorry, said he didn't realize how far things had gone. I deleted it. Sorry doesn't undo months of betrayal. Sorry doesn't unterrify a child in a bathroom stall. Margaret never called. I heard through mutual acquaintances that she'd moved to Florida to be near her sister. Good. Distance suited us. Lily stopped looking over her shoulder. She stopped asking if people were watching her. She started laughing again. The real kind. The kind that comes from safety. 3 months after the court hearing, Lily's teacher asked to meet with me. My stomach dropped. More problems? But when I arrived, Mrs. Rodriguez was smiling. I wanted to tell you in person, she said. Lily has been thriving. Her reading scores have jumped 2 grade levels. She's participating more in class. Whatever you're doing, it's working. I almost cried right there in the classroom. We're just living, I said. We're just being us. That's enough, Mrs. Rodriguez said kindly. That's more than enough. It was the validation I didn't know I needed. Not from a court, not from a lawyer, but from someone who saw Lily every day and could confirm what I already knew. My daughter was okay. We were okay. But the experience changed me. I started attending a support group for widowed parents. I met others who understood the impossible balance of grief and responsibility. I learned I wasn't alone in feeling like I was failing even when I was succeeding. I learned that survival is success. I also learned something darker. Margaret wasn't unique. The group was full of stories about in-laws who turned hostile after a spouse died, grandparents who filed for custody, family members who questioned every decision. It's a specific kind of cruelty, using grief as a weapon, using love for a child as justification for control. One woman, Rachel, told me her mother-in-law had reported her to child services 6 times in 2 years. 6 times, investigators came to her home, interviewed her kids, inspected her life. 6 times, the claims were unfounded. But the trauma remained. Her kids were anxious. They didn't trust adults. They thought every visitor was someone who might take them away. Another man, Terrence, lost custody for 3 months because his father-in-law convinced a judge he was too depressed to parent. 3 months of supervised visits, of his daughter crying and asking why she couldn't come home. By the time the ruling was overturned, the damage was done. His daughter had nightmares. She wet the bed again. She was 7. These stories made me realize how close we'd come. If Lily hadn't been brave enough to speak up, if I hadn't documented everything, if the detective hadn't taken us seriously, Margaret might have won. Lily might have been taken from me, placed in a home where control mattered more than love. I also realized something else. Kevin's betrayal hurt worse than Margaret's. Margaret was predictable. She'd never approved of me, never thought I was good enough for her son. But Kevin? He'd sat on my couch, eaten my food, held my daughter. And the entire time, he was gathering evidence against me. That's a different kind of violation. It's not just loss of trust, it's loss of reality. Every conversation we'd had, I now questioned. Was he genuinely concerned or fishing for information? Every kindness, was it real or tactical? I'll never know. And that uncertainty is its own punishment. I thought about confronting him, writing a letter, demanding answers. But what would that accomplish? Kevin made his choice. He chose his mother over his niece. He chose judgment over support. He chose to be complicit in terrorizing a child. No explanation could justify that. So I let it go. Not forgiveness, just release. I couldn't carry the weight of his guilt and mine too. I had enough to manage. Lily needed me present, not consumed by anger. So I focused on what I could control. Our routine, our home, our healing. We started new traditions. Friday night movie marathons with popcorn and hot chocolate. Sunday morning pancakes where Lily got to choose the toppings, even if that meant chocolate chips and gummy bears. Monthly adventures, just the 2 of us, exploring parks or museums or bookstores. These weren't grand gestures. They were small, consistent moments of joy. But they added up. They became the foundation of our new normal, a normal without fear, without surveillance, without judgment. Lily asked about Margaret once, a few months later. Do you think Grandma Margaret misses me? I chose my words carefully. I think she probably does. But missing someone doesn't mean you treated them right. She was mean, Lily said matter-of-factly. She made you sad? Yeah, she did. I'm glad she's gone. I didn't correct her. I didn't say we should forgive or that family is complicated, because Lily was 8 and her truth was simple. Someone hurt her mom, and she's glad they're gone. She'd learn nuance later. For now, she deserved clarity. The restraining order expires in 9 months. I've already decided I won't pursue visitation. Some people think that's cruel. They say Lily deserves to know her grandmother. But Lily does know her grandmother. She knows the woman who hired a stranger to stalk her. She knows the woman who tried to take her from her mother. That's enough knowledge. Maybe when Lily is older, she'll want to reach out on her own terms. Maybe she'll have questions only Margaret can answer. If that day comes, I'll support her, but I won't facilitate it. I won't put her in a room with someone who sees her as a possession to be won rather than a person to be loved. This whole experience taught me something critical about how we view single mothers, especially widowed ones. There's this narrative that we're fragile, that we're overwhelmed, that we need saving. And sure, sometimes we are those things. Grief is heavy, parenting alone is hard, but needing help doesn't mean we're failing. Margaret saw my exhaustion and assumed incompetence. She saw Lily's occasional sadness and assumed neglect. She saw our imperfect home and assumed chaos. She never once asked if we needed support. She just decided we needed replacement. And that's the trap. The moment you're judged as struggling, people stop offering help and start offering interference. They don't bring you a meal. They question your choices. They don't watch your kid for an afternoon. They document your parenting. It's not community, it's surveillance. I wish I could say this was rare. But the support group proved otherwise. We're all fighting similar battles. Ex-in-laws who weaponize grief. Family members who confuse concern with control. Systems that assume a single parent, especially a mother, is one bad day away from failure. Here's what they don't see. We're capable. We're doing the math every single day. Work schedule plus school pickup, plus grocery budget, plus emotional bandwidth. We're making it work because we have to. Because our kids need us. Because love is a renewable resource even when everything else is running on empty. Lily is thriving not despite me being a single working mother, but because of it. She sees resilience. She sees problem solving. She sees a woman who doesn't give up. Those are the lessons that matter. Not whether the laundry is folded or the floor is vacuumed. But I also learned I can't do it alone. After everything with Margaret, I leaned harder on my real support system. Valerie, who'd been there from the beginning. My coworkers, who covered shifts when I had court. My support group, who reminded me I wasn't crazy. These people didn't judge. They just showed up. That's the difference. Real support asks, "What do you need?" Control asks, "Why aren't you doing it my way?" Real support adapts to your life. Control demands you adapt to theirs. Margaret could never tell the difference. To her, love meant ownership. I think about David sometimes, about what he would say if he knew. I think he'd be furious with his mother. He'd be heartbroken over Kevin. But mostly, I think he'd be proud of Lily. Proud of how brave she was in that bathroom. Proud of how she told the truth even when it was scary. Proud of the kid we're raising together, even though he's not here. Because he is here in a way. In the basil growing on our balcony. In the way Lily tilts her head when she's thinking, just like he did. In the spaghetti recipe we make every Sunday. Death doesn't erase love. It just changes how we carry it. And I'm carrying it. We're carrying it. Together. It's been a year now since the mall incident. Lily is 9. She's reading above grade level. She has friends. She laughs easily. She still talks about her dad, but the grief doesn't swallow her anymore. It's just part of who she is, woven into her story. We saw Hartman's case resolved a few months ago. He pleaded guilty to criminal trespass and lost his private investigator license. The judge was harsh, said that what he did, following a child into a restroom, was indefensible regardless of who hired him. He got probation and community service. Not enough, in my opinion, but something. Kevin sent a letter to Lily on her birthday. I intercepted it, read it first. It was full of apologies and explanations. How he thought he was helping. How he didn't realize how serious things had gotten. How he missed her. I burned it. Lily doesn't need his guilt. She needs stability. Margaret remains in Florida. I heard she's involved with her church, volunteers with children's programs. The irony isn't lost on me. She's caring for other people's grandchildren while banned from seeing her own. Maybe she's learned something. Maybe she's exactly the same. I don't care enough to find out. The restraining order expires next month. I'm not renewing it, but I'm not inviting contact either. If Margaret wants to rebuild a relationship with Lily, she'll have to do it on our terms. That means therapy. That means accountability. That means understanding that she doesn't get to waltz back into our lives because a year has passed. Lily hasn't asked about her. Not once. That tells me everything I need to know. Kids remember how you made them feel. Lily felt scared, watched, unsafe. Those aren't feelings that fade just because time passes. But here's the thing that surprises me. I'm not angry anymore. Not the burning, consuming kind of anger that kept me up at night. I'm just tired of giving Margaret space in my head. She took enough. My time, my peace, my sense of security. I'm not giving her my present too. Instead, I'm focused on what we built from the wreckage. Lily and I are closer than ever. We talk about hard things now. Feelings, fears, boundaries. She knows she can tell me anything. She knows I'll believe her. That trust? That's worth more than any custody battle. I'm also rebuilding myself. I started therapy finally, dealing with the grief I'd shoved down, the trauma from the stalking, the betrayal from Kevin. It's slow work, but I'm learning that I don't have to be perfect to be enough. I don't have to have it all together to be a good mom. Lily and I planted tomatoes this year, next to the basil. She waters them every morning before school. We're growing things, literally and metaphorically. Our little balcony garden is thriving. So are we. Last week, Lily asked if we could invite Valerie over for spaghetti night. She's like family, Lily said. She's better than family, I replied. She chose to love us. Lily thought about that, then nodded. Yeah, that's better. And that's the lesson, isn't it? Family isn't just blood. It's not ownership or obligation. It's choice. It's showing up. It's believing someone when they say they're okay and supporting them when they're not. It's not hiring investigators or filing false claims. It's just love. Simple, consistent, unconditional love. Margaret never understood that. She thought family meant control. That being a grandmother gave her rights over choices. That her way was the only way. She confused tradition with truth, preference with protection. And in trying to save Lily from an imaginary threat, she became the real one. I hope she's happy in Florida. I hope she's found peace. But I also hope she understands what she lost. Not just access to Lily, but the chance to be part of something beautiful. The chance to watch her granddaughter grow up. The chance to support instead of sabotage. That chance is gone. Not because I'm cruel, but because I'm careful. Because I learned that some people don't deserve second chances when they didn't value the first one. Because protecting my daughter means protecting her from people who claim to love her, but treat her like property. We're okay now. Better than okay. We're happy. Tired sometimes, stretched thin occasionally, but happy. We have our routine, our traditions, our inside jokes. We have a life that's ours, built on our terms, filled with our choices. And if you've listened this far, if you've heard our story and felt something, do me a favor. Hit that subscribe button. Not for me, but for every single parent out there fighting similar battles. For every mother being judged for working too much or not enough. For every kid who had to be brave when they should have been safe. These stories matter. They deserve to be heard. And my mother was wrong. People do care about the truth, even when it's messy and uncomfortable and real. Especially then. Because the truth is this: I'm not a perfect mother. My house isn't always clean. My kid doesn't always eat vegetables. I'm exhausted more than I'm energized. But I love my daughter fiercely. I show up every single day. I keep her safe, keep her fed, keep her loved. And that's enough. That has to be enough. That is enough. Margaret couldn't see it. Kevin couldn't see it. But Lily sees it. And in the end, she's the only one whose opinion matters. We're survivors, she and I. We survived grief. We survived betrayal. We survived a system that almost failed us. And we're not just surviving anymore. We're living. Fully, loudly, joyfully living. That's our revenge. Not in courts or confrontations, but in our happiness, in our peace, in our refusal to let anyone dim our light again. So this is our story. The story of a mother who fought for her daughter. The story of a daughter who saved her mother. The story of a family that chose itself. And we're still writing it. Every single day.